Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here today. Today, we're going to explore an important and fascinating topic: democracy in the contemporary world. This presentation will cover the key concepts, current trends, and challenges facing democracies around the globe. So, let's get started and delve into what democracy looks like in our modern era. Let's take a closer look at the idea that democracy is really a continuous process. It's not something that we achieve once and then forget about. Rather, it's an ongoing journey that requires constant effort and vigilance. To illustrate this, we'll examine some compelling case studies, such as the Solidarity movement in Poland, which played a crucial role in challenging authoritarian rule and pushing toward democracy. We'll also look at the case of Chile, where democracy was unmade for a time and then had to be rebuilt, showing us how fragile democratic systems can be. We'll compare democracy with non-democracy to understand their fundamental differences, especially in terms of participation, rights, and governance. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore enduring themes that have shaped democratic development over time, emphasizing that the path to a healthy democracy isn't linear. Specifically, we'll focus on Chile's journey back to democracy, highlighting the resilience and collective effort involved. We'll also discuss the importance of universal adult franchise, that hard-won right that allows all adult citizens to vote, which is essential for genuine democratic representation. Finally, we'll clarify what democracy truly entails by examining its core principles, such as participation, equality, accountability, and the rule of law. All these points help us understand that democracy is a dynamic, evolving process, one that requires our continuous engagement and commitment. Let's take a closer look at understanding democracy and its core principles. Democracy is fundamentally about the power of the people, giving citizens a voice in how they are governed. At its heart, it emphasizes participation, meaning everyone has a say, whether through voting or other forms of engagement. Another key principle is the rule of law, which ensures that laws are applied fairly and consistently, protecting individual rights and maintaining order. Freedom of expression is also crucial, allowing people to share their ideas and opinions openly without fear of repression. Accountability is essential too. Leaders must be answerable to the people they serve. This creates a system of checks and balances where power is not concentrated in one place. All these principles work together to create a political environment where citizens feel empowered and protected. Connecting this to the overall theme, understanding these core principles helps us appreciate how democracy functions and why it's vital for a healthy, fair society. Today, we're going to explore some fundamental ideas that form the backbone of a democracy. First, let's look at universal adult franchise. This means that every adult, regardless of their background or social status, has the right to vote. It's a key principle because it ensures that all citizens have a say in choosing their leaders and shaping the government. Next, we have elected rulers. In a democracy, our leaders are chosen by us through voting. This system of electing rulers makes sure that those in power are accountable to the people. It's a way to keep leaders responsive and responsible for their actions. Finally, we come to understanding democracy, core principles. These principles include equality, freedom, and participation. They remind us that democracy isn't just about voting. It's about creating a society where everyone's voice matters and where power is derived from the people. Connecting these points, we see that a true democracy relies on these core ideas: everyone having the right to vote, leaders being accountable, and understanding the values that keep the system fair and just. These principles help us appreciate why democracy is so important for a fair and inclusive society. Every adult citizen, regardless of their background, possesses the fundamental right to cast their vote. This is a core principle of political equality, meaning that everyone's voice matters equally in a democracy. Democratic systems are built on the idea that all citizens should have their rights protected, and that laws apply equally to everyone, including those in positions of power. When we talk about rights and the rule of law, We're emphasizing that a fair and just society is one where laws are clear, consistent, and apply to all. This ensures that no one is above the law, and that power is exercised within a legal framework that protects everyone's rights. A key part of democracy is holding free and fair elections. This means that the people have the genuine opportunity to choose their leaders without fear of coercion or manipulation. The electoral process must be transparent and honest so that the results truly reflect the will of the people. Together, these principles, political equality, rights, rule of law, and fair elections, are the foundation of a healthy democracy. They ensure accountability, protect individual freedoms, and enable citizens to participate actively in shaping their government. Let's take a closer look at the contrast between democracy and non-democracy. When we talk about democracy, we're referring to a system where citizens have a say in decision-making, typically through voting and representation. It emphasizes individual freedoms, political participation, and accountability. On the other hand, non-democratic systems often involve centralized control, where power is held by a few or a single entity, with limited political freedoms for the general population. Understanding these differences is crucial because they shape how societies govern themselves and how policies impact people's daily lives. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how these systems influence stability, development, and human rights across different regions. Recognizing these key distinctions helps us better analyze global political dynamics and their implications. Let's take a closer look at the democratic ideal. This concept represents the core belief that power should ultimately rest with the people. It's about ensuring that citizens have a voice and a say in how they are governed. Now, to understand this better, it's helpful to compare democracy with non-democracy. In democratic systems, decision-making is often transparent, participatory, and based on the will of the people. Conversely, non-democratic systems tend to concentrate power in the hands of a few, limiting citizen participation, and often lacking accountability. This distinction is crucial because it highlights the fundamental values behind democracy: freedom, equality, and representation, and how these principles shape societies. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how these ideas influence political stability, individual rights, and the overall development of nations. So, understanding the difference between democracy and non-democracy helps us appreciate why the democratic ideal remains a powerful aspiration worldwide. In non-democratic systems, dissent and opposition are often suppressed, and sometimes this is done violently. Decisions are typically made by a small group of people, often a military junta or a single party, rather than by the citizens themselves. This means that genuine opportunities for ordinary people to change their government are usually absent. Interestingly, in some non-democratic regimes, opposition voices might be tolerated or even respected on the surface. But ultimately, major decisions tend to reflect the will of a select few rather than the broader population. This contrast really highlights the core values and freedoms that democracies work hard to protect, like participation, free expression, and the ability to change leaders through elections. In authoritarian regimes, freedom of speech is often severely limited or completely non-existent. Leaders may seize or inherit power, rather than being elected by the people. This is a key difference from democracies, where citizens have the real option to choose and change their rulers through periodic elections. In essence, non-democratic rule is characterized by rulers who hold onto power without electoral legitimacy, while in democracies, citizens enjoy the freedom to express themselves and have a say in who governs them. This fundamental difference underscores the importance of political freedom and citizen participation in maintaining a healthy, functioning democracy. Let's talk about the universal adult franchise, which is truly a hard-won right. This means that every adult, regardless of their background or social status, has the right to vote. It wasn't always this way. Many groups had to fight for their right to participate in elections. Achieving universal suffrage was a long and challenging struggle, demanding persistent effort and sacrifice. This right is fundamental because it ensures that all citizens have a say in their government and can influence decisions that affect their lives. It's a cornerstone of a democratic society, emphasizing equality and fairness. Overall, recognizing this hard-won right helps us appreciate the importance of democracy and the ongoing efforts to make voting accessible for everyone. The concept of universal adult franchise is a fundamental pillar of modern democracy. It means that every adult citizen, regardless of their background or status, has the right to vote. This idea ensures that the voice of the people truly matters in shaping our government and policies. However, I want to emphasize that this right was not always easily granted. Throughout history, securing the right to vote involved long, often difficult struggles. These struggles were driven by those who believed in equality and representation, and they faced many obstacles along the way. Recognizing this history helps us appreciate how precious and hard-won this right really is. It connects directly to our broader theme of democratic development and the ongoing fight for justice and equal participation in governance. Even today, challenges still exist in some regions around the world. There are groups fighting for equitable access to voting and protection against disenfranchisement. This reminds us that the journey toward universal adult franchise is ongoing. It highlights how democracy is a continuous process of evolution and how crucial active civic participation remains. After World War II, many nations expanded suffrage, recognizing the contributions of all citizens and the importance of broader political inclusion. For example, in 1893, New Zealand made history as the first self-governing country to grant all adult women the right to vote in parliamentary elections. This set a powerful global precedent. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, we saw the rise of strong women's suffrage movements. These movements fought tirelessly for their right to vote, challenging societal norms and pushing for equality. Initially, voting rights were limited based on criteria like property ownership, gender, race, or literacy. These restrictions excluded vast segments of the population from participating in democracy. So, understanding this history helps us appreciate how far we've come, while also recognizing that the fight for fair and equal voting rights continues around the world today. Let's take a closer look at a compelling case study: the unmaking of democracy in Chile. This example really highlights how fragile democratic institutions can be when faced with certain challenges. Throughout this slide, I'll walk you through the key points to understand what happened and why it matters. We'll see how political, social, and economic factors intertwine to threaten democracy's stability in Chile. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of safeguarding democratic principles. As we connect this to the broader themes of our presentation, keep in mind how these lessons can inform our understanding of democratic resilience worldwide. All right, let's take a closer look at this period from 1973 to 1990, which was marked by dictatorial rule in Chile. During this time, the government was under a strict authoritarian regime that suppressed opposition and curtailed political freedoms. It's important to understand that this wasn't just about one leader or one event, but a broader pattern of control and repression. Now, opposition to the regime was persistent, despite the risks involved. Many Chileans and international actors tried to push back against the dictatorship, advocating for democracy and human rights. This brings us to the role of the U.S. intervention, which is a significant part of this story. The U.S. had complex interests during this period, sometimes supporting the regime for strategic reasons, at other times facing criticism for not doing enough to support democratic forces. This slide also highlights a key case study: the unmaking of democracy in Chile. It's a stark example of how democratic institutions can be dismantled through violence, repression, and external influences. Understanding this helps us grasp the broader themes of how authoritarian regimes can rise and sustain themselves, often at the expense of democratic principles. Throughout this period, the struggle between authoritarian rule and the push for democracy remains a central theme in our overall discussion. It underscores the importance of resilience and international dynamics in shaping political outcomes. Now let's turn to Pinochet's rise to power. In 1973, He established a ruthless dictatorship that deeply affected Chile's history. He suspended civil liberties, dissolved parliament, and used violent methods to suppress any opposition. During his 17-year rule, thousands of people were arrested, tortured, or even executed, which shows just how brutal his regime was. A key event was the military coup on September 11, 1973, led by General Augusto Pinochet. This coup was extremely violent and resulted in the overthrow of President Salvador Allende's government. Tragically, Allende died during the coup, and while there's some debate, it's widely believed he chose to die by suicide rather than surrender. Pinochet's rise was fueled by strong opposition from various groups, wealthy landowners, the church, and parts of the military itself. The United States also played a role by supporting anti-Allende activities, aiming to destabilize his government. To remind you, Salvador Allende was a democratically elected socialist president. His government was focused on important reforms, land redistribution, nationalizing industries, and improving conditions for workers and the poor. His election in 1970 was a significant moment, representing a shift toward more social equality and change. All of these events and opposition points to the broader context of Cold War tensions, where external powers often influenced internal politics. Pinochet's dictatorship marked a dark chapter, but understanding it helps us grasp the complex forces shaping modern Chile. Now let's take a closer look at Chile's path back to democracy. This slide highlights the key milestones and efforts that helped Chile transition from a period of authoritarian rule to a democratic society. It's a story of resilience and perseverance. First, after years of dictatorship, Chileans started demanding change, pushing for political reforms and greater freedoms. This movement was driven by a strong desire to restore democratic institutions and uphold human rights. Next, we saw pivotal moments such as the 1988 national referendum, where the Chilean people decisively voted against extending Augusto Pinochet's rule. This was a turning point, signaling a clear shift in public sentiment toward democracy. Following that, the transition process involved a series of political negotiations, constitutional reforms, and the election of new leaders committed to democratic principles. These steps were essential in rebuilding trust and establishing a stable political system. Throughout this journey, grassroots activism, international support, and a collective commitment to democratic values played crucial roles. Chile's experience underscores how perseverance and civic engagement are vital in restoring democracy after periods of repression. Overall, Chile's path back to democracy reminds us of the importance of resilience, collective effort, and the enduring hope for a more just and open society. It's a powerful example of how a nation can overcome adversity and rebuild its democratic fabric. Let's take a closer look at the growing dissent against Pinochet and how it played a crucial role in Chile's path back to democracy. As many of you know, Pinochet's regime was marked by repression and control, but over time, opposition and resistance began to grow. People started to voice their opposition more openly, despite the risks involved. This growing dissent was vital because it gradually challenged the legitimacy of Pinochet's rule and laid the groundwork for change. Ultimately, this resistance helped galvanize efforts toward restoring democratic governance in Chile. It's a powerful reminder that even under tough authoritarian regimes, collective opposition can spark a shift toward democracy. This slide highlights the importance of these internal struggles, which, when combined with international pressure and internal resilience, contributed to Chile's journey back to democratic stability. Despite the widespread repression and strict government control over the media, the Chilean people showed remarkable resilience. They voted no in a referendum to oppose Pinochet's continued rule, which was a truly pivotal moment in Chile's history. Following this vote, Pinochet was compelled to call democratic elections in 1989. This led to a peaceful transfer of power and the restoration of democratic governance in Chile. This story reminds us that even when democracy seems lost, it can be reclaimed through the collective will and courage of the people. Now, let's look at the context leading up to this. Despite the repression, both internal resistance and international pressure against Pinochet's regime steadily increased over the years. One key moment was the constitutional amendments that set the stage for a national plebiscite in 1988. Pinochet asked the Chilean citizens whether he should remain as president for another 8 years. This 1988 plebiscite became a turning point because it was a direct vote by the people on their leader's future. And although the regime tried to control the narrative, the people's vote ultimately reflected their desire for change. This moment was crucial in shifting the momentum toward democracy and showed that even under authoritarian rule, the voice of the people could make a difference. Now, let's take a closer look at the case study of the Solidarity movement in Poland. This movement, which emerged in the early 1980s, was a pivotal moment in the struggle against communist rule in Eastern Europe. It started as a trade union, but quickly grew into a broader social movement advocating for workers' rights, political reform, and greater freedoms. What's really remarkable is how Solidarity was able to unite diverse groups, workers, intellectuals, and even some church leaders, around a common goal of change. This unity and resilience played a crucial role in challenging the oppressive regime. The movement's ability to sustain itself through periods of repression demonstrated the power of organized civil society. Ultimately, Solidarity not only contributed to the fall of communism in Poland, but also served as an inspiration for similar movements across Eastern Europe. It's a perfect example of how grassroots activism can drive historic political change, reinforcing our overall theme of the importance of collective action in shaping history. Solidarność szybko zyskała ogromny poparcie społeczne. Zasięgać miliony z zielonką I stajek, z silnym głosem zemajan. To ruch, Katori demagal sinai tylko lepsich warunkow pracy, tax szurzej pojdich reform politycznych, takich jak walnosk slowa, walna prasa I prawo do zakładania niezależnych organizacji. W10 sposób bezpośrednio kwestionował władz polskie, jednakżonaj partii robotnicze, oraz reżimu wspieraniego przez związek radzicki. Nachiltich widers stanął lech Walesa, electric z stoksny, Katori wilanil si jako charyzmatyczny lider strategujesic robotników. Podjigo udniktum robotnicy zalazili Solidarność, Piersi niezalny związek zawodowy kraju pod kontrola komunistyczna. W sierpniu 1980 roku wybuchli maso strajki college Pols, gloni stoksny gdańskie. T strajki byli rikcha, na trudna sytuacja gospodarcza, I głęboko zakorzenieni pragnieni wykrzycz, swobod politycznych, pod reżimem komunistycznym. Ruch Solidarności, Pols jest doskonałym przykładem nutu. Jak zorganizowane obywatelskie dzielenia mogą kwestionować I ostateczny obalak systemu niedemokratyczny. To historia, Katora pokazuje styles społeczeństwa, Wals o wolność I demokracji. I jest kluczowym elementem naszego ogólnego tematu o zamianach politycznych. Let's talk about Solidarity's impact, challenging authoritarianism. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how solidarity movements play a crucial role in pushing back against oppressive regimes. When people come together, their collective voice becomes a powerful force for change. It challenges the very foundation of authoritarian rule by demanding accountability and justice. Solidarity not only empowers individuals, but also creates a broader sense of unity and resilience among oppressed communities. This interconnected support system makes it harder for authoritarian governments to suppress dissent. Ultimately, these acts of solidarity can lead to significant political and social transformations, helping to dismantle oppressive structures and promote democratic values. This theme ties back to the overall idea that collective action is essential in the fight for freedom and human rights. In 1980, we saw massive strikes that really shook the economy. These strikes paralyzed key industries, showing just how powerful collective action can be. When workers came together and decided to strike, they demonstrated that their unity could have a huge impact. It's a clear reminder of the strength that lies in solidarity. These events connect to our overall theme by highlighting how organized effort can challenge existing systems and push for change. It's a powerful example of the people's ability to influence their environment when they act together. Today, I want to highlight a pivotal moment in history, the formation of the first independent trade union within a communist state. This was a groundbreaking development because, traditionally, in communist regimes, trade unions were controlled by the state. But here, we see a different approach. This union, called Solidarity, brought together not just workers, but also intellectuals and citizens from various walks of life. It was a true unification of different groups, all committed to advocating for their rights and interests independently of the government. What makes this so significant is that it challenged the existing power structure and demonstrated that organized, independent collective action was possible even under a communist regime. This formation was more than just a labor movement. It symbolized a broader push for social and political change, emphasizing the importance of unity and collective voice. By understanding Solidarity's creation, we see a crucial chapter in the story of resistance and the quest for freedom within oppressive systems, connecting directly to our overall theme of how grassroots movements can transform societies. Solidarity was a powerful movement that really pushed for political and civil liberties during this time. What's important to understand is that these demands challenged the very foundation of one-party rule, which was the norm in many countries then. They were essentially calling for more freedom, more rights, and a voice in how the country was governed. This wasn't just about individual rights. It was about transforming the political landscape and opening up space for democratic principles. These demands for freedom played a crucial role in shaping the push for change and reform, connecting directly to the broader theme of seeking justice and human rights under oppressive regimes. The movement's success really served as a powerful inspiration for other opposition groups across Eastern Europe. It showed that change was possible, even in the face of oppressive regimes. This momentum eventually contributed to the collapse of communist regimes throughout the region. Although there were times when Solidarity was suppressed, its enduring spirit proved to be incredibly resilient. That resilience ultimately led to Poland's peaceful transition to democracy in 1989. This is such a crucial point, because it demonstrates that even deeply entrenched authoritarian systems can be challenged and overcome when people unite with a common purpose. And that, I think, ties back to our overall theme, the power of popular will and how it can drive meaningful, lasting change. Let's take a moment to reflect on the enduring themes in the democratic journey. Throughout history, certain ideas and values have persisted, shaping how democracies evolve and adapt over time. These themes include the importance of individual rights, the necessity of participation, and the need for a balance of power. They serve as the foundation that supports democratic systems, regardless of the specific context or era. By understanding these core principles, we can see how democracies maintain their resilience and continue to reflect the will of the people. These themes remind us that democracy is not a static concept, but an ongoing process driven by shared values and collective effort. Connecting this to the overall presentation, it highlights how these enduring ideas are central to the development and sustainability of democratic societies worldwide. Vigilance against threats is essential to maintaining a healthy democracy. It's not just about defending against external dangers, but also about staying alert to internal challenges that could undermine democratic values. This constant watchfulness helps ensure that rights are protected and that democracy remains resilient. When we talk about the struggle for rights, we're emphasizing that democracy isn't a finished product. It's an ongoing effort, something that people must continuously work for and defend. Rights like freedom of speech, voting, and equality require active support and advocacy to be upheld. Remember, democracy is not a static state. It's a dynamic process, always evolving, shaped by the people it serves. Citizens have a vital role in this process. They participate, voice their opinions, and hold leaders accountable. Throughout our democratic journey, there are enduring themes, core principles that guide us. These include participation, respect for diversity, and the rule of law. Recognizing these themes helps us understand that democracy is a continuous effort, one that requires vigilance, engagement, and a commitment to preserving the rights we value. Democracies are constantly facing challenges that require vigilance. Populism, corruption, economic inequality, and the spread of misinformation are some of the key issues that can threaten democratic stability. It's important to recognize that the spread of democracy around the world isn't always smooth. It can be quite turbulent and unpredictable. This demonstrates that democratic achievements are often hard-won and at times fragile. Looking at the global perspective, the ongoing struggle for freedom, civil liberties, and political agency is very much alive. Countries like Chile and Poland illustrate that this battle continues in different parts of the world. Ensuring that everyone has equal rights and opportunities, regardless of their background, remains a core democratic ideal. So, as we reflect on these points, it's clear that democracy isn't a finished product. It requires constant effort, adaptation, and protection to maintain the freedoms and rights we value so much. Democracy, as we've discussed throughout this presentation, is not a static system. It's a continuous process. It evolves over time, shaped by the actions of citizens, leaders, and institutions. This means that maintaining a healthy democracy requires ongoing effort and engagement from everyone involved. It's about constantly refining our systems, ensuring accountability, and adapting to new challenges. The key takeaway here is that democracy isn't a one-time achievement. It's something we nurture and develop every day. By staying active and vigilant, we can strengthen democratic principles and ensure they endure for future generations. As citizens, our role is crucial in safeguarding and strengthening these democratic values for future generations. The historical case studies of Chile and Poland powerfully illustrate that the path to democracy is often fraught with challenges, reversals, and immense personal sacrifice. These stories underscore that the strength of a democratic system lies not just in its institutions, but in the enduring spirit of its people to fight for freedom and equality. In conclusion, democracy in the contemporary world teaches us that democracy is far more than just holding elections. It is a continuous, evolving process that demands active participation, unwavering respect for human rights, and constant vigilance against forces that seek to undermine fundamental freedoms. Democracy is a continuous process, something we must all commit to, day after day, to protect and nurture.